So let's go through these 7 steps to healing, and I'm just going to talk about them superficially and talk about them in more detail in another video because I don't want this to go too long. But what you see is the first thing there is mindset. Mindset's your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, the meaning you make out of things. And it might be obvious to you how important that is and how much your mindset can either serve you or harm you. The important thing to know is that you can work through various techniques and tools for shifting your mindset to a way that serves your health and your well-being. And it serves your ability to engage in the other things that you can do to actually learn to heal and to cross that bridge and come from that place of suffering, disabled, debilitated, miserable to a place where you're actually feeling better and able to reconnect with life. Second number on that list is physiologic self-regulation. You may have learned that you've got a fight, flight, freeze response and a rest and digest response, a stress response, relaxation response. Your stress response is about helping you deal with perceived danger. Your relaxation response is about helping you repair, assimilate, heal, and live well and live long and healthy, hopefully. The challenge is that sometimes the stress response gets turned on, whether it's by trauma, illness, pain. Those things activate the stress response. And in turn, the stress response activates the physiology of pain and trauma. So there's a vicious cycle that goes on there. And we also live in a time where there's just so much stress and uncertainty, and it's hard in 2022 and beyond. So most of us are overactive in that stress response, and we call that autonomic imbalance, where we're imbalanced towards a stress response, and that creates a whole host of physiologic issues and problems. And there are tools and techniques for bringing back balance, for stimulating relaxation response, simple things you do with your breathing, with your mind, with your intention, with your attention. And these are evidenced by growing scientific study and research showing how it affects so many different aspects of physiology, pain, motivation, sleep, all sorts of other important stuff. Number 3, as you see, is mindfulness. And I don't really like mindfulness because the word gets thrown around too easily. The way I like to think about it is it's compassionate, non-judgmental presence. It's a way of being present to your life and to other people and to your own being that is transformative. And we could talk about it a lot, but the real meaning is when you start to experience it. When you start to learn to actually sit with yourself in your experience and stop judging it so much and observe it. Because what you find is you have an observer, and the observer becomes an ally. The observer is quiet, and it's present, and it's caring. In the Torah tradition, which is my tradition, it's connected with your higher soul. And your observer is like a wise guide. And your observer connects your physiology to a more productive, healthful place. And all I can say is you need to train it and teach it. And it's easy to do if you get into the right learning environment to build mindfulness. And the key thing I want to share is mindfulness is often touted as being about like, okay, so let me pay attention to the good things in life and let me not forget that there's good. And that's incredibly important because when we do that, we open our hearts and we open up our physiology to a more positive outlook, which is actually healing. But there's another even deeper transformative aspect, which is when we bring mindfulness, meaning compassionate, non-judgmental presence and awareness to the hard stuff. Because when we meet the pain, when we meet the difficulty in life, when we meet the anxiety we hold in our body or the anger or rage we hold in our body, and we hold it in compassionate, loving presence, it starts to soften. It starts to lose its hold on us. We start to have more free choice about how we want to deal with the hard stuff in life. We're less stuck and less held under its grip. And that has a huge impact on things like pain and our mood and your physiology and your stress relaxation response. Number 4 is your mindful movement. And that's a whole other dimension of mindfulness, which can be brought simply to walking, right? And you could do slow, mindful walking, which profoundly can affect the way your balance and your neuromuscular system works and the way you have a sense of being rooted and grounded on the ground and not floating and lost in space. But the other aspect is when you get into more complex movements, and throughout human history, there's been various traditions that have arisen of mindful movement. In our modern culture, we have things like Pilates and Feldenkrais techniques and other things. And then modern culture is drawn from ancient cultures and brought in things like yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong, which are all ways of bringing your awareness and your consciousness into your body as it moves. Why is that important? Well, if you've got chronic pain and it's hard to move and your muscles are stiff, or you've got fibromyalgia and you've got a low threshold, when you do too much you flare up and you get miserable, when you start to do mindful movement, what you're doing is being aware of your threshold, being aware of your limitations, and learning first to move within your meditations, your limitations, moving within your limitations with a relaxed, calm mind, which turns off some of those restrictive reflexes and guarding patterns, and you start to move and breathe in a way that actually opens up your tissues. At a deeper level of really bringing your consciousness into your tissues, you meet your fascia. You meet the connective tissue that can get restricted from things like inflammation or infection or injury or trauma or immobility or just lack of use because of trauma, fear, pain, whatever it is. And you start to unwind your tissues from the inside out. And that's profound, because you can actually drop into the deeper layers of tissue of your body and start to move those from the inside out. So mindful movement, incredibly powerful, transformative, calming, shifting that fight, flight, freeze response in an embodied way. The other piece I want to add to that is that a lot of us calm down in our mind, or we calm down in our emotion. Maybe you're a person of faith who's learned to give your mind over to your higher source, your higher power, which is a calming influence on your thoughts, on your outlook, on your beliefs. But we also know that we've got deeply rooted physiology of fear and danger that's actually in your body. And it's a core brainstem kind of thing. And you don't necessarily get there through meditation and prayer if what you're doing is connecting in and out. You get there by bringing your consciousness down and in, bringing that higher consciousness. And if you're a person of faith, the way to do mindful movement is to realize that I am serving my source, right? And you bring your consciousness that way into the body, and you start to move from the inside out that way. And it's profound. Next on there is visualization. And the power of visualization sits between your mind and your body. According to the Kabbalistic sources and the sages, there is an aspect of reality, which is a creative, dynamic world where emotions live, and that's where imagination lives. And the power of imagination can feed into the negativity that we may have internalized in our life, or maybe experiencing because of pain, illness, or other difficult circumstances. And through that, we are repeating and rehearsing and imagining negative outcomes, which doesn't serve your healing process. On the other hand, you can take your power of imagination and you can feed it with your higher consciousness and higher intelligence. You can feed it with your higher aspiration and positive goals, and that actually starts to have an influence on your physical body, your emotional body, on your function and your ability to get through life and thrive in life. I think that's part of the reason why visualization techniques are used in business, in sports, in all realms of human endeavor where it's been studied. Visualization is part of enhancing performance. And so bring it to your healing process.